Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Rebuild Talks with Tiffany. Listen, you will not believe who I have joining me today. I have Suzy Mighell joining me, and I am so excited because she is just a dynamic woman. She's recently released a book. You all have to get this book. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Suzy, welcome to the Rebuild.
Tiffany, thank you. I was so excited to be invited to join you. I love what you're doing. I love just everything that you're about. And of course, right before we started, we got to talk about you becoming an empty nester soon. And I
Yes.
loved that too. So,
Yes.
yes, my name is Suzy Mighell. I am a content creator and I'm a blogger and an author. I started 10 years ago. I started the website Empty Nest Blessed. So I have been doing this for a very long time. Influencer industry kind of grew up around me when I first started. We were all just blogging. We were doing our little blogs, and I just didn't see a blog about the empty nest that was positive and joyful and upbeat. I mean, it is a time, there's definitely grief involved with the empty nest, but it can also be a time of joy, and we'll talk more about that. But so I wanted to really put that spin on it and just be a positive influence in that space. And I started with the mission to encourage, inspire, and bless empty nesters. And that is still my mission today. So we talk
That is a
about
great mission.
Thank you. We talk about everything on emptynestblessed.com and on my social medias, from beauty and fashion to, of course, the empty nest, parenting adult kids, marriage, travel, all the things that are great in the life of an empty nester. Today on my social media, I did a travel post, and then on the website, we just put out our Valentine's Day gift guide just for empty nesters. Because empty nesters, I mean, I'm buying for like my husband. My parents are like 90 and 87, and
God
they need a
bless.
gift because they were
Right.
them,
Right.
And then I'm
Right.
buying for my adult kids and their spouses. And then I have grandbabies. I have a
Yes.
3-year-old and a 4-month-old. So of course I'm buying for them. So that's 4 generations. So all of our gift guides are geared toward empty nesters who are buying for multiple generations. So we just published that on the blog. So that's just an example of the variety of things that we cover. And I love that. It keeps it fun and interesting for me.
I love that. And keeps it fun and interesting for all of us too, who are
Yes,
like watching and participating.
I
I
hope.
love your social media. So
Thank
if
you.
I'm thinking about your mission, I want to can we go all the way back, all
Yes,
the way back?
let's do it.
So tell us how many children you have,
Okay.
and tell us like a little bit about you before you
Okay.
were an empty nester.
Okay, yes. Well, I have 3 children. I have 2 boys and a daughter. The boys now are 34, 32, and then my daughter's 29. So I've been an empty nester for 10 years. I was a stay-at-home mom before that, and I was always involved, though. I was speaking at women's groups or leading a Bible study, or I was on a nonprofit board, or I was, leading the PTA, or I was always busy doing things that mostly revolved around them and their activities. And on my 50th birthday, date, we dropped off my daughter at college. So I became an empty nester on my exactly 50th birthday. And I knew that it was coming. When your first one, you've got that and he's leaving, you're like, okay, this is coming. So I feel like I started preparing, thinking, praying, talking to others that were just a little step beyond me about what that season would be like. And those things were all very, very helpful. And then that continued, interestingly enough, and I'll say this for anybody that's watching or listening that has multiple kids, when the oldest left, my middle, who'd been kind of, the middle can kind of get lost in the shuffle. He just rose up and he kind of took over the family. And he's still kind of the boss now. He's 32. And he's was the first one to get married, first one to have kids, first one to have a mortgage. Then he had a second mortgage on another house. I mean, he's done all the things. And my first one's he's doing great too. And he's married, but the middle one just was he just rose up. So sometimes you'll see that in the family dynamics, what
Mhm.
happens. And then my daughter was at the end. So I saw it coming, and I hope that I used that time really wisely to think about what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something meaningful. I knew that it wasn't just going to be for me a time of um, just like getting a little job at the boutique on the corner. Not that anything's wrong with that, but for my life, I just wanted to do something that I think was meaningful and it made a difference in the lives of others. And to me, that really informs my purpose in the empty nest. So, as I said, been doing emptynestblessed.com and all the social media for 10 years. And at the beginning, I would share things like how to cook for 2 instead of 5, and, like, and I do these little videos for YouTube and my social. I'd be like, "Here's how you make chili, and I've adapted my chili recipe for
Right.
2." And I would get these comments like, "That's great. Can you share the cookbook that your recipe came from? And, your earrings are really cute. Can you tell us about those? And what is that lipstick you're wearing?"
I
And I was
love
like,
that.
"What is happening?" I did not know what is happening. But thankfully, the whole influencer content creator industry was growing up around me. And
Mhm.
so I wasn't necessarily doing it to monetize. I was doing it to be a blessing. And it all just grew up around me and it became a business. And now I have an assistant, I have an agent, I have a tech team. It's more than full time.
I love
And
that.
yeah, it's funny how these things happen. And yeah, I'm in deep now, girl. I mean, I am.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
with
I
all the
wonder.
topics, with all the topics I talk about on emptynestblessed.com, the one that resonates the most and I think has been the most meaningful to my
Mhm.
followers is when I've talked about parenting adult kids. Finding purpose in the empty nest for sure. But then as they get older, once they go to college, you really do have to parent them differently. So last year, I decided to write a book. Uh, Here it is. Empty Nest Blast. SEO, we called it
Yes.
the same as the website. 60 Days to Finding Joy in the Empty Nest. And I went through the empty nest kind of chronologically. I started with, first of all, who are you? And who are you apart from your life as a mom? And I know, Tiffany, with what you do, how important that is to,
Absolutely.
for women to figure out. And then I go through preparing for the empty nest, then how it feels when the nest empties, the grief and the exhilaration that kind of run side by side at the same time. It's
Mhm.
very confusing. And then what life is like in the empty nest, how you need to reconnect in your marriage if you've been struggling there, figuring out your purpose in the empty nest. And then finally, I spend a lot of time talking about parenting adult kids because it has to change. And you become more peers and more of a coach that is invited in rather than a parent the way that you've been doing things. So that's what happened last year. I wrote that book and published it. And I've been talking about it ever since. I won't shut up,
I
as
love
you can tell.
that. I love that. Well, tell us a little bit because I think there's always that moment where you decide, like I should write a book or I should
Yeah.
start a blog. What set you up for the moment to say I should now write a book?
That's a great question. I think honestly, the book, I felt like I was kind of repeating myself. When I was
Mhm.
writing these, blog posts, I was like, okay. So I just thought I'll put it into a book. So it's just there for people. And I don't have to keep like, I'm going to republish a blog post and put a little new spin on it. And I thought, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to put it all in a book. So it's all there. And then everything I do can just be like, it's in the book, people. And so that was part of it. I think the biggest transition for me was deciding to start Empty Nest Blessed 10 years ago,
Yeah.
really looking for as I entered into that period of transition. And, I think life is a series of transitions and entering into this very big transition, looking for some purpose that connected the woman I was before I had kids and while I raised them, just the woman that I am, gifts, abilities, talents, passions, things I love, who God made me to be.
Okay, wait, wait, wait. Hang on, hang
Oh,
on. Right
Okay.
there. I want you to stop right there.
Yes.
I'd love to hear about that, like, about that identity
Yeah.
switch that I mean, like, you literally just, like
Yeah.
that was the alley-oop. You, like, gave me
Okay.
the assist, or I'm gonna
Well,
give you the assist. Tell me
yes, I will.
about the identity shift
Yeah.
that
I
occurs, because
really
that's a
think
big piece.
well, I think it never went away. I mean, the girl never changed. I mean, she's
Yeah.
in some ways I look back and I'm like, I was the same girl at 18. Then you can even see in your childhood who you were and really it starts with, and this sounds kind of trite, but it's not. God doesn't waste a thing. Like when I was growing up, Tiffany, I moved every 2 years. My dad was with an oil company. We moved. I was overseas for 2 years. We moved about every two
Wow.
years went into making me who I am. I mean, like, I'm not shy. I'll talk to anybody about anything, whether I know about it or not. I mean,
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
and then when I went to college, I decided to major in marketing and PR and journalism. So I had this little triple major. And let me tell you, that was in the 80s. You are way too young for me, girl, because that was in the 80s and there was no internet. No
Yes.
internet. So we were
Yes.
typing for the college newspaper on our little typewriters.
Mhm.
And it was, but God doesn't waste a thing because I learned how to write. I learned how to communicate and I learned how to not like creative writing. I learned to like write the way I talk. And so
Yeah.
that's how I wrote my book and that's how I write my blog. So God doesn't waste a thing. So figuring out kind of stopping when I became an empty nester, going back, and literally it was like a pen and paper. And let's think about who you were before. And still now, but like when you weren't focused all the time on these other little people and
Right.
you were just doing you, what was it? What were your talents? What were your abilities? What were your passions? What did you love? What lit your fire? If someone said, "Well, you're going to do blah," and you were like, yay, what was
Yeah.
that? And
Yeah.
so, what really lit you up? And then I think thinking about too, I'm a woman of faith. So what does God say about me in the Bible? He says he loves me. He says he exalts over me and he wants to give me peace. He'll guide me. And so all those truths, I put that kind of was like making a stew back to my chili or whatever. I'm like putting in like, who was I and all those things. Then who does God say I am? Okay, there's that. Okay. Then thinking about while I was raising my kids, what happened then? And I learned whole new skill sets. You become a counselor, kind of. You become really good at reading the room. Like, is this a good time to bring this up with this
Mhm.
kid or not? So, I mean, skills like that. I was serving on nonprofit boards during that time. So, in doing that, I learned this sounds silly, but I learned to read a spreadsheet. Like, when it was time for the budget to come out and
Yeah.
all the businessmen to
Yeah.
sit there and be, "Okay, what's the ROI of the and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I learned. And my husband's in finance. And so I would come home and ask him, like, Bob, what does this mean? Or what would be some good questions to ask? He would be like, you need to ask them this. I go,
Right, right,
okay.
right.
So I learned to do that during that time. So I took those skills that I learned during the time I was raising my kids too, and put those in the mix too. So then you really come out, and what I knew for sure is I needed to do something significant. And so I did this exercise, and actually, it's the opening chapter in the book because I encourage everyone to do it. And I tell you what I did. I I don't know. It just came to me. God just gave it to me. I don't know. It was just in the brain. I
Mhm.
texted 10 people that knew me well and included my three kids, included my husband, and then other friends, like my sister, not my parents, my sister, other people that really were my people, 10 people.
Mhm.
And I said, this is kind of weird. Don't ask a lot of questions, but I'm doing this little exercise and I want you to describe me 3 words and just text them right back to me. Just text them right back. And Tiffany, I thought I was going to get words like bossy, overtalker. I was thinking about these negative qualities. And instead, I got words like persuasive, enthusiastic, contagious, encouraging. And
Wow.
it was like a light bulb went on to see how other people saw me. And I think, when we think of ourselves, it's like a coin, it's like heads and tails. And so I'm thinking, like, I'm seeing tails. I'm thinking I'm
Mhm.
bossy. I talk too much. I don't know, all these negative things. And other people were seeing the same coin, but they were seeing heads. And I think so often our strengths taken to extreme are our weaknesses. And I was seeing those strengths as the weaknesses.
What I
So,
love about this, what I love about that is that it gives just asking your loved ones and
yeah,
friends to say those words, it gives
yeah,
you, you know, such an idea about how they
yeah,
feel about you, how they view you. And I think that's so beautiful. I think it creates an amazing level of connection and probably didn't exist before. Even if you
yeah,
have to say, like I'm doing this weird thing because I
yeah,
love that you
yeah.
you kind of frame it like
Had to
that as
preface it.
far as for when people in your suggestion for people
Yeah,
to ask about these words. I just love that. And I love that it's
thanks.
10. It's 10 people that they're
Yeah, it was
asking.
manageable and 10
Yeah.
and I just said, "Just do it real fast." And I just wanted them to think instantaneously, like, in the moment, how they saw me. And I don't know, I don't think, I mean, my love language is words of encouragement, but
Mhm.
but I don't
Mhm.
think I was looking for that. I was really looking for it to put in the pot and
Yeah.
to inform me as I was trying to make a decision about what I felt like I wanted my purpose to be. In this
Mhm.
last, my husband, the CPA and CFO, is the one who says, Susan, you've got about a third of your life left, got to make it count. And I'm like, okay, so if I've
Yeah.
got this last third of life, how am I going to make it count? And I
Mhm.
wanted to be prepared and I wanted to be well informed about how I was going to do that. So that was the purpose of that pot, and it stirred. And then I started doing kind of informational interviews with other people who had jobs or things that I thought were cool. And
Mhm.
I I met a friend who was a blogger, and at the time we were all doing the blogs,
Yeah.
and she was very successful and she was writing about a very niche group. And so I was like, well, I can write about a niche. But, when we think of people doing what I do, we think of like we follow the fashion influencer, or we follow the beauty influencer, or the travel gal, whatever. And I just wanted to talk about the whole woman, but I wanted my niche to be defined by demo. So that's what I did. And thankful that people responded.
Yeah, I mean, people are responding to this book. That your reviews are incredible on Amazon. I'd love to know a little bit more about the 60 days. Like what
Yeah.
made you select 60 days?
It was from, because I've always spoken to empty nesters. That's been my voice, and that's my people.
Mhm.
I know how overwhelming the empty nest can be when your kid leaves and you go, okay, whew, now I have all this time and brain space freed up because she out of the nest, they're doing their own thing. It's the plan, it's God's plan. That's how it's meant to be. So I have all this brain space freed up. And I think people start taking, and rightfully so, taking inventory of their lives. And they go, okay, now I got to go get that checkup that I've been putting off. Now I got to get in shape
Yeah.
because I got no excuses. Now my marriage needs some attention, or whatever it is. Now I need it. For me, I was like, I need to be a better daughter to my elderly parents. I've kind of, busy with my own kids, but they're getting older. They need my attention. So whatever it is. And so I think women take stock and they can become very overwhelmed. I don't know how to dress my 50-year-old body. I don't know what's in style. I don't know how to do what is TikTok. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how, whatever it is. They feel behind and like they have to catch up. So I chose 60 days because I didn't want it to be overwhelming. But I
Great.
didn't number the days. And I did that on purpose because I want it to be something you can pick up. So I sort of wanted that on the cover because I didn't want people to feel overwhelmed. This is just 60 days. I can do this. I can look at
Yes.
this. And I didn't make it a devotional. And I didn't, I want it to be kind of this hybrid of like a journal that you walk through, and it's active. There's lots of places to write, draw, imagine, dream, all the things inside the book. but I wanted it to be very, very practical too. So that's why I chose 60 days.
I
It's a good
love that.
question. No one's ever asked me
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, I do
Just
love
because
that,
I
and I
didn't,
I feel like 60 days is for if someone sees that, to them, it seems relatable and it seems
yeah,
attainable. It doesn't seem
doable.
like it's
Yeah.
such a long period of
Yeah.
time that they
Yeah.
can't accomplish anything. So I
Thank
really love
you.
60 days. Can't thank you enough for joining us today and
I
for,
loved it.
just being in this conversation and just your vulnerability about your family and about, how you came to this work and just the fact that like you've decided that this work is meaningful and
Mhm.
purposeful, and you are committed to helping other women who are empty nesters. I'm so grateful that you've committed to this in this way.
Oh,
I'm really, really grateful because I know that I'm going to read your book and I need all these tips. I need all of this
oh,
help. So thank you so much
thank
for being
you.
with us.
Thanks, Tiffany.
All right, Rebuild family, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us for another episode. We will see you next time. Be sure to comment, subscribe, like, and share. Share this podcast with a woman you know who really wants to have deeper meaning, have deeper understanding, have deeper connection in her family relationships as she becomes an empty nester. Have a great one. Thanks.